With the mission to keep as many men on as many guns for as long as possible, we called him Doc. Welcome to Combat Vet Vision, and now Chief Siebert.
How's everybody doing today? Hey, this is Aaron Siebert. This is my show, Combat Vet Vision, brought to you by SitchRadio.com. Brian Colburn running the whole thing. Awesome platform. Hey, this is where I really usually give my opinion, my story, other people's stories, other combat vets, their stories. This is to educate the public and also help some combat vet that might be dealing with some stuff out there today. My guest today, real honor to have her. We're good friends. Her son passed away 4 years ago and took his life. And this is going to be kind of a deep story. She's going to tell it like her story, but she's done a lot to make some amazing things happen. We're going to talk about them. So, this is how Combat Vet Vision is meant to be, to tell the story. So Andrina Shields is on to talk about Robert Graves, her son, and I had the privilege to meet him, try to do what we could to change his mind, to go to a place, Camp Hope in Houston, but it didn't work out. And as a mom, she got to do a lot of really amazing things to try to help her son. So Andrina, thanks for being on my show. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me, Aaron. It's a pleasure.
Nice. And yesterday was Robert Graves' birthday.
Yeah, he would have been 31. He passed at 27.
Nice. I mean, tell his story a little bit. Tell, how he grew up, what would motivated him to join the military, and kind of talk about his career a little bit, how you know it. And
Sure. I come from a military family, so there's a lot of military background. His dad was in the Air Force, and I remember watching 9/11 with him. We were watching it live when this, the plane hit the second tower, and he was probably 12, over 13, and he on that day said, "I will join the military." And and a mom is in a mom's head, I'm like, well, he's want to join the Air Force to follow in his father's footsteps, so I felt like he wouldn't see combat and we'd be fine. And so I was really proud of him that he wanted to join, because he went literally right out of high school. He turned 21 in Iraq.
Wow. And how many times did he go? Just one time?
Well, he was stationed right from basic. He was stationed in Japan. So he, the tsunami and everything that hit there, he was a part of that. And then, then when he deployed to Iraq, and then from Iraq, well, he met his wife. She was also in the Air Force. And then after he came back from Iraq, they both got stationed in North Dakota. So herein lies part of the problem is, he was gone for so long. And even when he was got out of the military, he started working for BSNF. He was a train conductor. So he did a really great job working for the railroad. But the progression of, now knowing what I do know now of PTSD, now I can kind of look back and see some signs, but with the distance, I didn't, and he never asked for help. I didn't see it. I would say he was okay until he wasn't. I think once that progression started, it was just like, once we got involved, I tell myself when I, have to help myself not go down a dark path. I say it's like, how do you stop a moving train? Like once we found out something wasn't right, it was like literally trying to stop a moving train.
And you wouldn't mind sharing like how that progressed and how he ended up in a situation in Phoenix and in a facility for a while that you really had an opportunity, a window to give him the best options to hopefully get some help.
Yeah, so it's so interesting, Aaron, and I know some of this story because you are a huge part of it, which I'll loop you in a minute. But I got a call from his now ex-wife, but his ex-wife, well, she was his ex-wife at the time. They have a son together, and she was taking his son to him, and his truck was there. She, he had a big German Shepherd. She could see his dog in the house, but everything was locked up and he wasn't there. And that's not like him at all. And so when she was able to get contact, and he just wasn't making any sense. He was, kind of rambling about stuff. And So she was sending me videos, and it was like he was just so out of character for him. And we're able to get him on a plane to get him to Arizona. And I thought it was just drugs. I was like, he's on something, so let's get him. I had no idea that he was diagnosed with PTSD, and or really even what that really was at the time. And so I said, look, let's get him to Arizona. We'll get him in a treatment facility. And so when I picked him up at the airport, it was just, looking back, it was so hard. Like he really was like a different person. And I was trying not to ask too many questions or trying not to, disturb him in a way that would make him go away. I was just trying to, figure out what we needed to do. And he hurt himself the first time. He actually hurt himself in my neighborhood. And so, they took him to a hospital, and this is where I realized this is a military thing. So he flatlined at one point, and so they made all the family leave, and he came, a nurse comes running out. Like he literally had nurses and doctors all the way around him working on him. And the nurse comes out and says, Mom, he wants Mom. So I, run in the room, and I'm holding his hand as they're all working on him. And he's grabbing onto my hand, so I know he's still with us. And this guy walks in the door, an older gentleman, hair pulled back, and he's like, soldier, we fall in, we don't fall out. And literally Robbie sits straight up in the bed, and they just embrace. They like hug each other, and they both start crying. And he's like, I've been right where you are, and we've got this, you can do this. And like it was like the first time I really saw him, like saw my son. It was just like, what is happening? And so then he puts another IV in, helps get him settled, and nurses and doctors and stuff start to leave. And he was one of the last ones to leave the room. His name is Ray. And he's like, dude, I'm an ER nurse, I got to get back. He goes, I just heard there was another Veterans in Arms in trouble, and I just wanted to come encourage you. And my son was begging him not to leave. He's like, please don't leave. And so as Ray was leaving the room, and again, I'm the only family member that got to witness this. And as Ray was leaving the room, he tells the doctors and nurses, he's like, he needs combat vets. Call combat vets. He needs combat vets. And he was just, he got a little better after that. And so because he did hurt himself, they were sending him to more of a mental type hospital. But we were waiting for a bed to open. So he was in that hospital for about a week and a half. And so every day I would go during the day, my ex-husband would go and spend the night with them. And every day I just kept waiting for combat vets to come. And now I kind of make the joke, but they didn't know what to do. Like 1-800 call a combat vet. Like I'm sure they didn't know who to call. I had no idea who to call. I made a few phone calls, and it seemed like I got dead end after dead end. Thankfully, and this is where Aaron comes into the story, because I used to work for Graystar, I did know about Camp Hope. I'd heard about Camp Hope. Never thought in a million years it would be something that I would need as a resource. But in the interim, during that time, he did get another PTSD diagnosis, but it was manic chronic PTSD. So I was working with the foundation, the PTSD Foundation of America, trying to get him to Camp Hope. We were getting his DD-214 and all of that information. And so Aaron thankfully drove. He now was in this place called Quail Run, and Aaron drove from California to actually visit with Robbie. And that was even interesting because he had to allow Aaron, he had to put Aaron on his visitation list. And when I talked to Aaron about him coming to visit, I had not met Aaron before that. And then, of course, spoke to my son about adding him on the visitation list. They each told me, you can't be in there with us. And, again, that was so new in my journey about even understanding PTSD and realizing that conversation would have been very different if I would have been in the room versus just the two of them together. So, Aaron, I'm sure I'll let you take a little bit from there on maybe your conversation.
Yeah, when I came up there to see him, and I knew I need to have that private conversation with him because with a family member in there, they might not be forthcoming with some of the things they want to talk about, or just because there's a huge burden that we carry sometimes when we come back from combat. And I'm not saying everybody carries it, but if you're dealing with some stuff, you're carrying it. And you look around and you try to protect those that you love, but at the same time, this burden kind of is a personal thing. You really don't want to share it with people that can't understand it, that don't necessarily are going to be able to fully embrace it. And it takes a lot to be able to articulate it too, because a lot of times we don't understand it. And these things might not even manifest till years later. These situations, these feelings, these, it's just the pressure finally gets, and you've been packing it in for so long. And I know you've been witness to that even recently, but I had the chance to talk to Robbie, and I sat down with him, and I consider myself a good salesman when it comes to PTSD, when it comes to dealing with our issues, personal responsibility, all these different things that I have to talk to these guys about. And one of the things that I really, come across as, hey, I can't care more about you than you care about yourself, but it has to come from you. As much as I can't do it for you, and your mom can't, anybody can't, but you just have to come to a decision that it's time for help. And we all do, and even in the midst of everything that, all the government support, all this and that, ultimately, whatever decision we come up with, it's ours to get the help or not. I think Robbie was in a place, I could see it in his eyes. He had a lot of things on his mind. He wasn't sure about a lot of things. He was not as trusting with a lot of different things, but he still felt like he had something to do. And I remember just saying, hey, can we go to Camp Hope tomorrow? There's a ticket. We'll get you out there. They're going to release you tomorrow. Let's get you to Camp Hope. He's like, nah, I got this great job. I got this and this. He still had some encouraging things, but there was some blankness to it. And I could feel it. I understood it. And I understood that I wanted to follow up and talk to him afterwards. But I felt like once I left there, it was really important for me to tell you that no matter what happened, you as a mom had the opportunity to make the best course of action for him. And it's up to him to take that, and don't feel bad whatever direction that goes, because you just don't know which way it was going to go. And unfortunately, he took his life later on. But, I think it was new to me. It's not like I do this all the time. It's not like I've never had this opportunity to help a mom that asked for this kind of thing, or that I've taken this kind of measure to do it. But I knew that this is all the correct path. But it comes to Robbie wanting to just, and he was sober. He was at the, getting ready to get released. So in his own mind, he was able to make a decision that he basically wanted to make. And it was to continue his life the way he wanted to go, the way he wanted to deal. But I think, you could see this pain, and maybe you can go back a little bit and tell his story. Like, what was it that really kind of damaged him? I think there's a story about, he's getting ready to come back, and something. One of his buddies got injured or killed.
Yeah. So I'll go to that, but I don't want to forget what I was going to say. But once we had him in the hospital, and they, of course, drug tested him, because like I said in the beginning, I thought this was about drugs. He didn't have any drugs in his system. No drugs, no alcohol. So this was literally, now knowing what I know, like he had completely stopped sleeping. And in his mind, he just, he couldn't sleep. Even in the hospital, they would give him Ambien, and on that, he wouldn't even sleep. So he was in a different place where he just couldn't calm down, and the anxiety was so deep. But going back to his time in Iraq, he was logistics. And so again, I thought, well, he's not front line. But he was there to close down the base. So he was the last plane to leave that base. So of course, they were trying to kill as many people as they possibly could, and they were achieving it. And part of his job was obviously to send the dead bodies back. And he was sleeping. And this is where I think part of why he didn't sleep was shrapnel came through where they were sleeping, and it killed his buddy that was, in the bunk right next to him. And again, I never knew any of that happened. He never spoke about it. I didn't know any of this until he had shared this with other family members. And so those were things that I was told later.
Right. And this comes down to, we're not real good about sharing with our families, because once we do, then there's a lot of emotional connections that happen. You know, mom's got your back, you know, family members got your back, and you want to sometimes just be able to say it and not have that emotional support, or, you know, you just maybe need it, but you don't know you need it. And so it becomes kind of a burden that he might not want to share with his mom, because it's something that he didn't want to put on you. He doesn't want to put it on his sister, you know, and all these different things. But hey, we got some comments, Andrina. I'm going to have Brian read them off so we can.
Okay, sure. That's Janie, a friend of mine. Yeah, and I agree with that, Joseph. I think, yeah, I've wrestled with this. You know, when you lose someone to suicide, you know, it is like a tsunami. Like it is, like the aftermath. Like I call it as a sudden departure, but like aftermath is just so great that I mean, so great. And so so many times, like especially as a parent, you go back and you think, gosh, what did I miss? And you do think it's your fault. Like, you know, even though I did have a resource of knowing about Camp Hope, when there's so many people that don't even have that resource, and I did have support there, there's so many things I didn't know, and so many questions then that you just wrestle with yourself on, you know, gosh, what did I miss? What else could I have done? And it takes a lot of time even now to not blame myself. And that's not just me. His friends feel the same way. His family, I mean, it's everybody. Anyone that loves that person is going to have to come to terms with that and be okay with it. But I this question, Joseph, I've wondered so many times too. Did he know? Like, did he really know that he had PTSD? And even when he was diagnosed with it, was he even connecting it at that point? I think that, you know, looking back, there was a lot of self-isolation, a lot of self-medication. There were triggers. His ex-wife, when he came back from Iraq, he pushed her away, and then they got a divorce, and he completely regretted it. She got deployed to Afghanistan, and the whole time she was gone, he was writing her love letters trying to get her back. Well, she was pregnant and just got remarried. And he put his wedding band on before he took his life. So there were definite triggers that pushed him to that. And I think he was definitely self-medicating with drugs. That helped get him to that different place. But I had a doctor tell me, well, there's no drugs in the system, so whatever got him there, he's not coming back. But I still think a lot of it is just the nuts.
And thank you for that. And for those listening, Joseph wrote, the worst is sometimes you don't know you're broken. You don't even know you need the help until you start to get it. Yeah,
that's so true. And you know, even there's so many out there that maybe have PTSD and they're not asking for help, and maybe they're dealing with it just fine. I want to say they could probably be dealing with it a little bit better if they hang out with a couple of combat vets and share some experiences. Some, you know, the PTSD Foundation has weekly meetings, weekly groups that put together some stuff, you know. And Andrina, you saw the need and obviously dealt with it from firsthand, and you went way out of your way to push to have the foundation put somebody in the Phoenix area. And the PTSD Foundation now has a footprint in the Phoenix area, and that's all because you went the distance. But in that process of trying to make that happen through Gray Star, and then obviously you moved on to something else, another company, and you're doing some really awesome stuff, but you had to go through a lot of things yourself. You went and saw Camp Hope firsthand. You're very aware of this now. You're very aware as a parent, as a person that has to carry this with you for the rest of your life. And you've worked with a lot of people that are carrying this burden too. You've met a lot of different people through TAPS. Some of the other organizations that you've done, talk about that a little bit, and what you've had to do. And like you said, you tapped on it just a little bit, that you're still dealing with it every day.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a daily journey. And I mean, part of it, I always say, you know, it's not as hard as losing a child, but like the second hardest part is watching everybody else that you love that was a part of your child's life struggle. It's, you know, it's changed so many lives. And that's been so hard to watch. I mean, my daughter's had to do a lot of work to be okay. His cousin, which was like his best friend, is, you know, now divorced and on drugs. And I mean, so it just impacts people in such a way that you're not just dealing with the fact that you lost a child, your whole world changed. I haven't spoken to my mom or my brother that's a retired colonel since my son's funeral, because there's so much blame. He was so angry at me that why would I bring my son to Arizona if he had PTSD? Because Arizona was, is known to not have great programs for vets that are struggling. I didn't even know he had PTSD when I brought him. I thought he was on drugs. So, but there's just, everyone has to make up stories in their head and deal with things a different way. And so it completely shatters families. But through that and through the healing, like getting the chapter, what you mentioned, if I would have known who to call for combat vets, and we could have gotten them to the hospital. I mean, you came and spoke with them, but you were the only combat vet I knew at the time. Or thought of through Camp Hopes. I didn't know who else to call or what other resources. So the whole thing was, if he would go to the PTSD Foundation of America Camp Hope and go through the program, he was going to come back and start the chapter in Arizona. That was what the whole conversation was about. And when you would talk to him about that, he was super excited about helping other vets. That would be the one time like his face would light up. Like he really did want to help other vets. He just couldn't get the help that he needed for himself. So of course, when he took his life, it became a mission for me to try to get a chapter. Greystar had already had a tournament being set up, a golf tournament to, for awareness and to raise money. So that was beautiful. But, it takes a village. Like this thing started moving forward before I was even ready for it to move forward. It was healing for me to be a part of that. It was amazing how so many people just, the time, the donations, just everything. Like so many people came to, get this chapter started, and just the stories and the things that have happened and continue to happen all the time, because we now have an Arizona chapter. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, I've had to do a lot of work. I did RTAP therapy. That was a game changer for me. I mean, I was suicidal. I didn't want to be here. I wanted to be where my son is. But I have a daughter, and I was watching what it was doing to her. And I had to take that option off the table, because once you know the impact of suicide, the thought of doing that to other people, even though that would have been the easier way to go, I knew, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to get help. And so I found an amazing therapist through TAPS that did the RTAP therapy. And I mean, when I first went in, they have you fill up this, for anyone that's done it, they have you fill out a piece of paper that basically you circle all these different emotions that you're going through. Like you can't eat, can't sleep, everything. And because just the trauma is so impactful. And I probably circled 95 out of the 100 words that were on this page. And after 6 sessions, she had me do it again. And I think I circled 4 or 5. So they actually are using my case study to help other therapists with this type of therapy to learn how impactful this therapy is. So highly encourage RTAP therapy if you are looking at therapy. And it's one of those things where it helps you understand and get your thoughts right, so that you can continue to help yourself, just going to therapy all the time. It's the way to move you into a better place. And then I also attended Operation Restored Warrior. I was very lucky to be able to attend that program. And it's like a 3 or 4 night program. Typically, it's only for combat vets or first responders or veterans. With Robbie and another long story, I was able to actually attend. There were 6 of us, 6 women. We were the only second female group that went through this program. And that was life-changing. I think in that, I started to forgive myself, and I even forgave Robbie.
Yeah, I just want to say, this has been a learning experience for me, and it's unfortunate that Robbie had to be the reason. But, I think it's super impactful, just talking about your daughter a little bit. And, you've told me the story twice, and I think it's really awesome that you had to you finally stopped and asked her, why are you so angry? And you want to talk about that response and what it meant to you.
Sure. Yeah, it was very difficult, sibling to sibling relationship, so different to a parent to child relationship. And so our grief was very different. We would try to talk about it, but, she may say something and I may cry, and not meaning to, but just couldn't help it. And then she would shut down and not want to talk about it because she didn't want to make me sad. And I think even in the beginning, she was living in LA. She actually moved back and moved in with me because I think she was so worried that, I would hurt myself. And so so I don't think her grief even started probably until a year after. And then, she got an apartment, and I was so happy that she was going to move on with her life and her healing. But so then that's when I think it probably took a year for us to realize we needed to get into counseling. And she also did the RTAP therapy through TAPS, completely paid for by TAPS. It's an amazing nonprofit that really helps family members. And so she, like I said, I think she started dealing with it later. And then finally now we're able to talk a little bit. And it wasn't probably maybe 6 months ago, she called me and she was just having a really hard day. And I asked her, why? What's wrong? What's going on? And she's like, I'm just so angry at him. I am so angry at him. I'm like, fair. You have every right. It was just the two of them, right? And she, they come from a divorced family, so they would go back and forth. And so in her mind, he was always going to be the one that walked her down the aisle. And her boyfriend, I think, are getting close to, getting engaged. And so, I think she was just angry knowing that he's not going to be a part of that. And I said, okay, well, so it's fair that you're angry at him, but why? What is the root of that anger? Tell me what the root is. And she said, because when you die, I have to go through that alone. And she won't be alone, but I understand what she's saying. She doesn't have that. And then another thing that's really recently, her boyfriend has 2 siblings. And so they hang out a lot, super close family. And the siblings will tell stories about him when he was a kid, and they'll laugh and tell, silly stories and stuff. And that's so hard for her because he'll never hear stories. She'll never have that, her sibling, to share those fun childhood stories with, her boyfriend. And so there's so many things you don't even think about with the loss until you start to experience it.
And I think that's unique because I didn't have that perspective until you brought it to my attention. And I know we spend a lot of time talking from time to time and catch up on a lot of things. And even now, you're still a resource. I mean, we have a combat vet that we're working with in the Phoenix area that's dealing with some stuff. And that's Robbie's friend from childhood. They were in diapers together. They did all this stuff. And, somebody came to you and said, hey, I need some help. And you reached out to me, and we're working on that too.
Well, he actually
also working on that.
Yeah. He wonderfully actually reached out to me. Like, thank goodness. Like, and that's what I said to him, I'm so proud of you to reach out. It's not easy for a combat vet to reach out. A lot of training teaches you differently, or just being a man. I think it's just hard. It's hard to reach out for help, and to have him reach out and say, I need help, was like such a beautiful thing. And it is interesting. I get contacted a lot now, from family members that need help, or, they have friends of, that have family members that need help. And it's a blessing to be able to help someone else, right? Not in going back, not knowing where I should turn or the support I need. And even as a mom, like, I've gotten really involved. I've gotten close with other moms now that have lost a child to suicide, military suicide, and just that support network. Because my entire network changed. Like, early on, everything started changing because a lot of it, people just don't know. Like, my girlfriends that I had for 25 years, they helped raise Robbie. They don't know what to say. And so a lot of times just go away. And the last thing in the world when you're dealing with that type of trauma is to have your support network go away. But it just happens. And that's just the reality. But now I have a completely new support network. And it's people that understand that type of trauma. And we can I can talk about Robbie, because there's certain circles I'll bring up Robbie, and people are so uncomfortable. I don't want to talk about it. It's a worst case scenario for a parent to lose a child by suicide, right? They don't want to be reminded that could even be an option. And so they don't want to talk about it, or they won't talk about their children in front of me because it's going to hurt me. That would never hurt me. I love that your children are alive. Let's talk about them. But so it does change everything. And now that I am in this new group, a lot of moms that can relate. It's the support that I need.
Yeah, I think it's great that you have the ability to actually talk about it and use it for bettering your relationship with your daughter, to obviously being on my show and giving that perspective, giving that full view. And for me, it's always been this way too. I've had to learn to articulate my thoughts, to understand my PTSD, to understand my frustrations in life, to understand other people's frustrations in life, and be able to adapt and hopefully find new resolutions and find ways to better deal with it, and encourage other people to do it. And that's interesting, because I think we get, I think the label PTSD sometimes gets on people's like, oh, I don't want to be labeled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't really care what the label is. I don't even care if you have a problem. What you feel about your life. And I say this to everybody. I think everybody in life needs a group, and not just, religion is one thing. And that's always, you go to church, you do this thing, but we don't really spend a lot of time just sitting around talking about the bad things for the week and just going like, hey, it's okay to have those bad things. Let's talk about it. Why, let it off your back and move on with your next week and see what, and come back and have another group. So your support networks are creating awesome things for you to be able to better talk about it, better understand it. The relationship with your daughter, better understand that, because you're asking the questions. Why are you angry? Yeah, you're good to be angry. And you're having probably an encouraging conversation because you're articulating your thoughts. And I know how important that is. I am honored that I know you, and I'm unfortunate that I know you in the way that we do. I
feel the same way, Aaron. I can't imagine going through this journey without you. Aaron actually came to Robbie's funeral as well. But we'll go back a little bit. So the day that, he got a plane ticket and went back to North Dakota, which is where his home was. And again, didn't open the door when his ex-wife went to drop off their son. And, we had known he'd hurt himself here. We knew he had guns. We were worried about him going back, but he was a 27-year-old adult that made a decision to, buy a plane ticket and go back. He was supposed to get his truck and his dog and drive back to Arizona. That was what was promised. But on this day, didn't answer the door again. And so I called Aaron and just said, hey, and this was on Memorial Day. And I had spoken to him that morning, and he just sounded so tired. Like I knew he hadn't been sleeping. And he said, Mom, will you come visit me? I'm like, absolutely. I'll be there this weekend. I'll buy a ticket today. And then from that point on, he went dark. We never, everyone kept calling him and he wasn't answering his phone. And so we waited and waited. And, like I said, his truck was at his house. They could see his dog inside the house, but there was no way for them to get in. Nobody had a key. And so I finally called Aaron. It was probably about 5 o'clock, I think, now at this time. And I spoke to him at about 11 o'clock that morning. And I just said, hey, just explained to him what I just mentioned. And I said, should I call the police to do a welfare check? And he goes, if you don't, I will. And so, of course, I called the police.
Let me, I remember you didn't want to be a bad guy because Robbie gets upset about it. And you're like, hey, I don't want to necessarily do it. And I said, all right, well, let me call Robbie and leave some messages.
Right.
A welfare check can be blamed on me. And because it was, you're just trying to be sensitive to his feelings and everything too. And that's how that went. And then you finally did a welfare check after he didn't respond to me, text. Yep. And I tried to call as well.
Yep, that's correct. And the police, asked if he was a veteran. I said yes. And they asked if he had guns in the house, which of course he did. And then when they did go to the home, but they saw his big German Shepherd. He wasn't answering the door. So they refused to go in. So, it was just that unknown, that unrest, like, not talking to him that entire day, that they wouldn't go in. And so at one point, it was probably about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I had no idea what to do because I couldn't get the police to go check to see if he's okay or not. And finally, Aaron calls me about, like I said, 9 or 10 and just said, hey, I want you to know that, you're an amazing mom and you've done so much to try to help your son. And it was at that moment that I knew that my son was no longer alive. And I thank Aaron for that because it prepared me for what began my new life. I had a little bit to hear it from Aaron. And knowing how many people he's helped and he knew, like he just already knew. And so for him to call me and say, hey, you did everything you possibly could have done. And I'll be forever thankful for that phone call, Aaron.
Yeah. Wow. I'm sorry for that too. Then someone finally went in there and you encouraged somebody to go in around 2 a.m. or something, 4 a.m.
Well, I didn't really encourage it. It was his ex-girlfriend, and it wasn't a healthy relationship. But so she broke in and checked on him, which that's why I was worried about him. Like, what if worst case scenario, and you go in and see that, which I'm sure we do not stay in contact, but I can only imagine what that's done to her to have to see what she saw. But so she called me and told me before the police came to my house, and they had a counselor and everything there, but I already knew before they showed up at my home.
Wow. Yeah, this has been an amazing but unfortunate journey, and
Yes,
continues, and it will. I mean, it's going to be with you, with me for the rest of my life too. And all these stories, but this one's really personal. If you have anything else you want to bring up and say, Andrina, or encouragements, or if somebody wants to get a hold of you, they can get a hold of you through me, through the show notes and different things like that. But feel free to say anything else.
Yeah, I guess in closing, as a mom that's gone through this, I guess I'm not beating myself up, but if I could have done something different, I think I would have educated myself more on PTSD. I think if I would have known a little sooner, because he did have the anger outbursts, and there were things now that I know that I might have paid a little bit more attention to or got more involved. So that's just one thing of just understanding what it really is. And then, and just for anyone that is going through trauma or, is dealing with PTSD, to know that you're not alone, that there's so many people and so many amazing nonprofits and support systems out there that are there to help you, but you got to ask for it. You got to let people know, you got to let your family know. And once you do that, and then you start realizing the support that you have around you, I think that's when things can change. It's not easy. It's never easy, but it's worth it. And your family needs you. And the devastation that's left behind, it's life-changing. I have a whole new life now that I never wanted, but I'll keep plugging forward and doing the best I can to honor my son and help anyone that reaches their hand out for help.
Thanks, Andrina. And I just want to reiterate, PTSD affects a lot of people. It's not just, the things I deal with is combat PTSD. I work with the combat PTSD side of things, but, anybody out there is dealing with post-traumatic stress, if they've been in trauma, dealing with stuff, maybe they don't have all the answers to what they're seeing, what they've been involved in, all these different things, but the support networks are so super important. And, thanks, Andrina, for being on my show. Thanks for sharing this incredible, unfortunate story. And hey, this is Aaron Siebert. I'm Navy Chief, retired, combat wounded in 2006. Lucky to be alive. This is coming to you from Sitch Radio Studios in Irvine, California. And Brian Colburn produces my show. He does all my show stuff. And I'm just lucky to be down here with him today and Andrina. So appreciate everybody. Until next time, strength and honor.